Welcome to Powered by Snowflake, a series where we interview technology leaders building applications and business on Snowflake. I'm your host, Felipe Hoffa, and today I'm talking with Sameer Narkhede, Director of Product Management at Acceldata. Acceldata is an enterprise data observability platform powered by Snowflake, and today we're going to learn all about this. How are you doing, Sameer? Thanks for being here.
Doing good. Happy to be here.
Super happy that you are here. People should know that you are going to give us a demo of Acceldata. We're going to learn more about you. We're going to learn more about how Acceldata is powered by Snowflake. But before we go through the whole Acceldata story, I want to know your story. And for me, it's very interesting that Acceldata acquired your company like a year ago. But before you were working at Nutanix. So tell me a little more about this.
Yeah, so I've been in data industry for a while now, right? And so implemented some of the data storage related file systems and distributed systems, and also architected data platforms, right? Both on-premise and on cloud environment also, right? And so it is back then when I was architecting the cloud data platform using some of the modern data technologies, I was introduced to Snowflake. This is back in 2017, 2018. Started playing with it, productionized it. Within 6 months, things just worked, right? And so for the next 2-3 years, we were trying to bring more and more use cases and more workloads onto this modern data stack that we had built. And there were some challenges that we were facing, right? And so with the experience and knowledge that we built, I kind of founded my own startup called dataSnights, where we provided data observability for modern data stack, and which later joined forces with Acceldata. And here I am with my product today.
That's pretty cool. So you were already using Snowflake in 2017. Yeah. That's a pretty nice discovery back then.
Yeah. So the problem was we were onto all open source technology running inside our data platform or data centers, and the operational headaches, right? Where at the time of deployment, at the time of scaling, or whenever we onboarded a new workloads, the team was spending much more time in solving those operational headaches and less time on focusing on the business logic. That was the main aim of the team that we had. And so that was the turning point, right? Why we decided to take a look at some of the cloud data platforms, right? And so along with Snowflake and AWS, where our applications were running, things went pretty smoothly, right? We don't have to worry about uptime or scaling out. So all those issues were solved pretty smoothly and with extreme simplicity.
Yes, I love that move to the cloud. With dataSnights, you were offering your main service was observability on the cloud?
Yeah, right. And so let me double dive into this thing, right? Like what is data observability, right? So it's an ability of an organization to measure, to understand, and to optimize all layers of a data stack, right? And also to react quickly to any of the problems that happen, right, that the data team faces. They have to resolve those problems quickly.
Yeah, measure, understand, optimize, and react. Real time is important.
As fast as possible, right? So that's how the data teams operate, right? That's the way of quickly moving and basically solving the data initiatives that they are in charge of, right?
Yes. And then in 2021, Acceldata feels a need. They see your company and...
Yeah. So Acceldata is a 4-year-old Series B startup, very well established in the data enterprise industry, right? Big banks, telcos are our customers. Some of the data product companies like Dun & Bradstreet, Verisk, these are our customers. What Acceldata saw was there was a need for these enterprise customers that they wanted to move from the Hadoop and other ecosystem into the cloud, right? And for that, they were looking for Acceldata's help, right? Okay, how can they migrate smoothly, right? Successful migrations, how can they do that confidently? And Acceldata wanted always to double down on their efforts on the cloud. And so with dataSnights joining them, with my experience and the team's experience on the Snowflake side, right? It helped them to accelerate the product and bring it to the market.
Yeah, that's super cool how they see the world moving to the cloud. And Acceldata has its own value proposition, which is...
So the mission of Acceldata is to enable data teams to build and operate data products, great data products. They want to help the data teams eliminate the complexity in their data stack. Also, deliver the reliable data confidently, right? So it's with this mission Acceldata had been operating, and really the key point that Acceldata emphasizes is the multi-layered approach to data observability. By that, what I mean is when we talk about enterprises, right? Enterprises are really looking to solve their challenges, right, they are facing at the infrastructure layer, right? In this case, the Snowflake accounts, the warehouses, or the workloads that are running on Snowflake. Then the next layer is the data asset, right? What is the quality of data? What is the freshness of the data at which it's arriving? And finally, the data pipelines, which are processing, ingesting, and consuming these data assets, right? And also the final layer is the users who are basically operating these multiple layers, right? Different personas that are interacting with the data platform, right? And so that's the multidimensional data observability. Recently, what we saw was this definition aligns with Gartner's definition of data observability also, right? So it's like a true enterprise data observability that we want to.
What is that observability? It's an important question, and we are finally aligning on what data observability is.
Correct.
And Acceldata is there. So speaking of Acceldata, can you tell me more about how big this company is and its customers?
Yeah, so Acceldata is a 4-year-old startup. It's Series B funded, and in a short span of time, we have grown to around 200 employees, right, working across the globe. And we serve a lot of enterprise customers, right? Big banks and telcos, some of the data product companies like Verisk and Dun & Bradstreet, Walmart, PubMatic, and few others.
That's an amazing place to be. Now, from the Acceldata point of view, they started 4 years ago. What you were telling me is like they are looking at the whole data pipeline, all the products that people are using. And today, the modern data stacks, there's a lot of data products in your pipeline. And Acceldata is looking at that whole pipeline.
Yeah, right. So we look at the entire data ecosystem and the entire data stack and help people or the customers who want to build data products, right?
Exactly. And then 1 year ago, they are in this mission and they're like, hey, there's something new. People are moving to the cloud. They wanted to jump in where the customers were going. And that's where they see your startup and they decide, Sameer, join us and show us the value of building being powered by Snowflake.
Yeah, always customer first, right? So when customer says they want to move to the cloud, we have a solution for that. And like I said, right, we doubled down the efforts onto the cloud environment and started building the solution that I can show today.
Yes, and I'm going to jump to the demo in 1 minute. I just want to call out that there is these 2 great videos from a year ago where the CEO of Acceldata interviews you. And one video is about, hey, Sameer is joining us, dataSnights is joining us, and this is super cool. And the other video is on why this is so important for Acceldata, and especially they call out the integration with the Snowflake, how Snowflake is going to power this.
Yes, absolutely, right?
Okay, so it's the time everyone has been waiting for. We want to see a demo of Acceldata.
Sure, let's dive in. Right. So what you see here is the homepage of our product, what we call it's Acceldata's Data Observability Cloud. It's a SaaS product. And this is where the journey of different personas who are interacting and who are responsible for the data stack starts, right? For example, the data engineers would like to know about the quality of their data assets, right? The DevOps engineer or equivalent person who is like a 9 a.m. engineer comes and first looks at what all the incidents happened in the past 24 hours, right? And there is yet another persona, right, called data administrator or member of a center of excellence team. Right? They want to know what all Snowflake accounts they have in their enterprise, right? What all workloads are running on top of it, what resources are consuming, how they are consuming. This becomes really important with data meshes, right? Where business analysts have now started using and deploying their workloads onto your Snowflake account, right? And so for this, what we can do is we can basically see what's been the total spend on particular Snowflake account, how many queries are performed, what's the trend on top of it, what are the assets inside that account, right? You can click on it, and now you are at a place where you see what are the different Snowflake services that are being used across your Snowflake accounts, right? If there are anomalies in the spend, we can highlight those anomalies, we can root cause those anomalies for you. Now here you see majority of the spend is going onto the compute side, right? So naturally the question is, okay, what are the warehouses that are using this compute side, right? What time of the day, what week did we spend this amount, right? So all those insights are here. So this particular warehouse has been spending the most amount, right? So I can click on that and look at the efficiency of that warehouse, right? So now we are diving deeper and deeper and getting the admin to understand, okay, what are people doing on top of the Snowflake account, right? So here we see warehouse is up and running. It's not using all the resources that are being available on that cluster, right? So that means they are running less number of the queries. And so all this information, right, is basically collected and made available via the Snowflake account usage schema. What we do is we built our own recipes on top of it. We have built heuristics and run some models on top of it. And we are able to determine how the warehouses are being used, how efficiently they are being used. Is there an idle time? On top of which now we can give you recommendations, right, regarding the sizing of the warehouse or the tunables of the warehouse. The other question, you can click on that particular warehouse and see what is the load that is running on that warehouse, right? What are the queries that I want to optimize? Or basically, are there some runaway queries happening on that particular warehouse, right? So here you get a view of which database most of the queries are hitting, what are the long-running queries, are there queries which are doing full scans of the tables with necessary troubleshooting statistics, so on and so forth, right? And I don't want to come to this dashboard all the time. I want to be alerted about it when such events happen, right? So what we do is we provide a set of pre-built queries, right? The queries are regarding your accounts, regarding the warehouse, your contract spend, or your materialized views that you are using, how you are using it, so on and so forth, right? We take it one step forward, right? We provide recommendations out of the box, right? So we run some algorithms behind the scenes and recommend to the user what should be the size of warehouse. Is your data layered or clustered properly? If not, based on the historical query workload, what can we suggest to you about how should you cluster that warehouses, right? Here we scrub the release notes of Snowflake, and we are saying there are certain users who are still using the deprecated drivers for the Snowflake, right? So all these insights are very helpful for the administration point of view. Oh, by the way, the same Snowflake account is shared by multiple departments, right? Very typical case of the data meshes. So how do we build a cost-aware culture? How do we build a responsible culture that they are writing and configuring the Snowflake resources sensibly, right? And so there, what we built was a complete FinOps-like solution. We provided ability to create cost centers, organization units. These are the different business units or departments and the different projects that you are working on, right? And now you can interact with it, right? If you are looking at how is your sales department using Snowflake, right? What amount of spend from Snowflake can be contributed to project A or which department? You can create budgets on top of it, right? And you can get alerted if those departments are consuming more and more resources, right? So that's one view into the infrastructure level, right? Or the compute. That's how we observe compute.
Yes, and this is how we are observing Snowflake using Acceldata, but Acceldata is kind of serve a lot more products.
Yeah, because a data platform has, so of course, Snowflake is one of the core components, but there is Airbyte or Fivetran to ingest the data, Kafka or Confluent to use as a pub subsystem, and they might have some data lying in their data storage. So our solution goes across multiple of these data stack.
And for each different product, Acceldata understands it and gives you recommendations on how to improve your usage of that product.
That's correct, right? And so the next dimension that we can go into, right? On top of this compute and infrastructure sits the data assets, right? And it's all about data, right? Garbage in, garbage out. If you are a data-driven organization and depending on dashboards or AI model to make important decisions for you, the quality of this data has to be absolutely good, right? And so in that dimension, what we do is basically, there are thousands of data assets, right? So how does one know which data assets I need to look at, right? Which data assets have been used, right? And so what we do is we map these data assets onto a quadrant based on how much are those assets used and what is the quality of those assets, right? And also the lineage, right? How much are the downstream users on the BI tool for these particular assets. And based on that, ideally, we want everything to be in the high quality, high usage assets, but you can basically now prioritize which data assets to start with. So here you see there is particular data assets which seems to be pretty interesting and it's of high usage, right? So we have a data catalog. You can basically search for that particular data asset. You can go and look into more details. So we profile that data asset where you can understand, okay, what are the characteristics of data? You can go into data cadence, right? The freshness at which the data is updated, the volume of data that gets updated daily and create alerts around it, right? Data quality. Now this is very wide and deep. You can create simple data policies like null checks or range validations, but you can really go very deep into these things, right? We can ask customers to provide their custom UDFs. Now with Snowpark and support for the UDFs, we can actually push all these UDFs compute onto the Snowflake itself, right? Earlier, we were using Spark connectors, but even in the Spark connectors, we were using predicate pushdown features that Snowflake provided, or with Spark 2.6 version, right? What we saw was there was a support for Apache Arrow, which increased our performance 10 times, right? And so all these good features from Snowflake are enabling us build these powerful solutions, which in turn solves the use cases of our customers. And so once you are basically looking at the quality of data assets, right, and it's all correlated. It's like we say, it's a multidimensional solution. Data quality depends on the infrastructure also and the pipeline also. So right here you can go and look at, okay, what is the infrastructure on which this data assets resides, or you can go vice versa, right? What are the most used tables and go back into your data assets. Now, which pipeline is basically using this data asset? So that is yet another view, right? So all the data initiatives that the data team is driving towards is basically a pipeline, right? And the ultimate aim for the data team is to keep their pipelines healthy and always up and running with no unexpected bottlenecks and stuff. And these pipelines are complex. They run across the data stack. So again, simplicity is the key here. People will come, customers come here, visualize these pipelines, what compute job they are performing on those pipelines, what are the data assets they are talking to, right? How much time it's taking to basically run this pipeline and add individual jobs. What is the quality of data assets that we are looking at? What is the historical trend, right? How is this pipeline running over a period of time? I can compare the two runs. Why is it running slow today? So if you see, right, what we are doing here is making it extremely simple for data teams, right? Where to start, how to identify the issues that are happening, and also how to debug these issues that are happening. So in a nutshell, what I would say is there are features, right? There are features like SQL workload optimization, or cost governance, or best practices, or data downtime, data diff, lineage, right? So all these features are very critical, but these are features that need to be run on a one single data observability platform in a multidimensional correlated manner, right? And that's the product that we have built to really serve the enterprises.
A multidimensional correlated manner. I love it.
Yep.
Let's fork this conversation because I love where you're going with this. What we saw here is how one customer of Acceldata would look at their own Snowflake usage and understand what's happening, not only with Snowflake, with all of their data tools. They would be able to monitor, do chargebacks to the different parts of the enterprise. But this is all being run by Acceldata. And then the question becomes of how does Acceldata do this? And what you're telling me here is that Acceldata itself, the company, relies on Snowflake.
Absolutely, right? So what happens behind the scenes is we are looking at probably hundreds of terabytes of customers' data, right? And also the amount of metadata that Snowflake is generating and the way they are providing this data in a very easy to use manner under the account usage or organization usage schemas, right? So we fetch all these metadata and data. We run a lot of compute as much as possible onto the Snowflake warehouse itself. And so in that case, the elasticity of the warehouse becomes very critical. The ability to run all these complex checks that we are doing on top of Snowflake warehouse, right? For that, the concurrency becomes very critical for us. And so we are using all the different parameters of the warehouse configurations and deploying some of the stored procedures, some of the tasks that we have created. And, I would say with the pace of innovation with which Snowflake is delivering the features, right? Snowpark, support for UDF, support for external tables or external functions, right? We are now able to solve with extreme simplicity. Now what runs in the customer's environment with respect to our product becomes extremely simple because we are using all these features of Snowflake.
I love it. I'm trying to understand also, if we were using Acceldata to monitor Acceldata, that I'm sure you do, what kind of architecture would we see? Like, yes, Snowflake storing everything, you're pushing down a lot of compute to Snowflake, but how does the rest of your architecture look?
Yeah, so basically we have observability for our own solution also,
Yes.
right? Like it's a SaaS platform, and observability is critical. Of course, it started with SaaS, and now we are bringing into the data platform, right? And so yeah, we are following all the best practices of SaaS. We have a DevOps team, which basically observes, right, on what's happening on Snowflake side. Those basically the user is running all our logic also onto a Snowflake warehouse, and those also, like how much time is consumed, how fast it's running, all this data is available via Snowflake account usage to us also.
And what tools do you use to bring data into Snowflake?
So basically this data is generated within Snowflake itself because we are doing a lot of logic there itself. But for all other components, right, some of the components that we are basically building on AWS, using some of the AWS services, right? Like, so we have built quite a bit of APIs and stuff, and these APIs push the data to Snowflake, or we have our proprietary database system that we have built from the scratch because we have to run a lot of algorithms and recipes on top of it, right? So we use our proprietary database system, and eventually this gets visualized in some of the Grafana and Datadogs and at multiple places.
Yep. And you stream data in using Kafka or using something?
No, so we don't stream it using Kafka. We have our own JDBC connectors that we basically use.
And basically with those, that's how you get to monitor all of the other tools and bring the data in.
Absolutely.
And with what delay do you get the data into the system?
See, the data which is generated in the Snowflake, it's available at the delay what account usage or information schema is instantaneous. There is no delay, so all that is good, right? So that's instantaneously available for us.
How have you seen Acceldata change since you joined them?
Like I said, right, with dataSnights joining forces with Acceldata, we just doubled down and we started going heavy on the cloud data integrations. We have started onboarded customers, right, with respect to Snowflake and recommendations and stabilizing their environments and their entire data ecosystem on top of it.
Yeah, that's super cool for your customers because the more you use Snowflake for your own purposes, the more the product knows about what recommendations to give to people?
Yeah, and I see the future is very, there are a lot of prospects, right? With Snowflake introducing the application, right? The native application. Eventually, I mean, for security reasons or for multiple reasons, there are always some enterprises who don't even want their metadata to go out, right? And so in such cases, really, a Snowflake native application that provides Acceldata's logic, right, for the data observability can run completely on the Snowflake, and it can be backed by Acceldata's control plane or the SaaS solution as needed, right? So we are very excited about the Snowflake's native cloud applications capability.
Yeah, like you can bring all the business value that Acceldata is an expert on, and you can rely on Snowflake to run these processes and keep the data.
And absolutely, make it simple for the customers also.
Yes. What else is in the Snowflake roadmap that you are excited about?
Of course, right? Today, all the insights that we are sharing are available to the users to consume via APIs, right? But the next step will be push all this data into Snowflake itself, right? And expose them via the marketplace or via the features, right? Data sharing features that Snowflake provides, right? Because customers are already used to Snowflake, and SQL is super easy to consume and put it into whatever their applications they have built in-house, right? And so that's the one way we are looking to use Snowflake.
Data sharing is massive. Thanks a lot, Sameer. If people want to learn more, where can they go?
Yeah, so we have a lot of collaterals available on Acceldata.io website. There is a demo, video, and a lot of documentation available.
Yes, and if you want people to remember one thing from our conversation today, what would it be?
I'll say, yeah, let's work together to make our customers' data initiative successful.
Yes, let's take Acceldata, let's monitor all the pipeline. Acceldata is being powered by Snowflake, and I'm glad that people got to learn so much. And I'm looking forward to learn more from you and more of our customers that are being powered by Snowflake. So thanks to everyone for watching. You can see more interviews like this with other tech leaders building applications on Snowflake. And you can check out our other videos on YouTube and be sure to subscribe. I'm Felipe Hoffa, and this was another episode of Powered by Snowflake.